In this video, I'm gonna take a close look at the files from the Leica M10 Monochrome, and I'm gonna compare them to the files from the Lumix S1R, and we're gonna see if there's any real difference. Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto. I'm a photographer and a Lumix ambassador. And in this video, I'll take a close look at the files from the Leica M10 Monochrome. I recently made a video where I was using this camera and I shared my impressions on this camera in that video. And in that video, I also said many times that the files from the black and white monochrome files from this camera are quite unique. And in this video, we're going to see how unique those files are. And I'm also going to compare these monochrome files to the Lumix S1R files. And we're gonna see if there is any significant difference. But before we dive in, please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done that already, and also tap the bell there so you'll get a notification every time I post new content. And also, I'd like to remind you that if you have my channel membership or my Buy Me Coffee membership, you can download all these sample photos either in JPEG or RAW format depending on your membership type. Links down below for that also. And also please keep in mind that there are probably many ways to do this kind of comparison. And the way I choose to do it is just the way I chose to do it. And some of you may think that I did it all wrong and I should have done things differently. However, I think that even though this doesn't cover all possible scenarios, this is going to give you some kind of idea how a dedicated monochrome sensor or the picture that it delivers compares to a normal Bayer color sensor. On both cameras, I shot RAW files. And I converted the S1R pictures to monochrome in Lightroom using Lightroom's default monochrome photo style or settings. However, keep in mind, if you have my membership and you download the sample files, the S1R pictures are going to be in color because they are RAW files. So you have to use your own favorite black and white conversion if you're going to compare these two files, the files from these two cameras on your own computer. I shot the first pair of test pictures on a tripod just to make sure there's no camera shake or any other image quality degrading factors. I had both cameras in manual mode and I shot at f5.6 because it's usually the sharpest aperture for any standard lens on a full frame camera. And of course the lenses that I used, very important because we are going to look at the sharpness. On the Leica, I have the Leica Sumarit 50mm f2.4 standard lens. And on the Lumix, I have the Sigma 45mm f2.8 because that is the closest equivalent lens that I had for the Lumix. But don't worry, the Sigma is a really sharp lens and it's gonna give the Sumarit a run for its money. And the scene is here, and when we zoom in 100%, we can already see that the Leica picture has more fine detail. The difference is not big, but it's clearly visible. And when we zoom in 200%, we can see even better that the Leica file has more fine detail. But the difference is not big, but it's there. And then on another day, I shot another pair of test pictures handheld this time. But the shutter speeds were so short that I don't think I got any camera shake. And also this scene has a lot more tonality in it, so you can compare a little bit better how both cameras render the different colors in grayscale. And also in this picture, when we zoom in 100%, we can see right away that the Leica picture has more fine detail in it. But again, the difference is not huge. We can also see that the Leica renders red colors a lot darker than the Lumix, at least using the Lightroom default monochrome settings. The top of the boat is red, and in the Leica picture it's a lot darker than in the Lumix picture. But when I look at the tonality and overall how the picture looks, the difference is not actually that big, at least to my eyes. And that small difference in the sharpness is not going to show unless you print really big or somehow present your pictures in a really big size. So at this point I would say that the difference is there, and the Leica files look a little bit nicer, but the difference is not that huge. But there is one more comparison we have to do, and that is the high ISO comparison. And my test scene is here, very elaborate still life with the color checker and some fruits and vegetables. And this is shot at ISO 25,000. And when we look at the files side by side, it's right away clear that the Leica file is so much cleaner than the file from the Lumix S1R. And in this comparison, the Leica M10 really wins hands down. The ISO 25,000 picture looks incredibly smooth, and there's hardly any noise. And one more thing about the Leica M10 Monochrome sample files. For whatever reason, Lightroom shows wrong aperture in 2 of the 3 files. I shot both cameras at the same aperture, f5.6, and the ISO test at f8, but Lightroom is not going to show you those numbers, and I really don't know where the problem is, but I'm telling you this just in case you are wondering why the exif data numbers don't match the numbers that I put on the screen when I showed you the sample photos. So as a conclusion, I would say that the files from the Leica M10 Monochrome, they certainly are unique, and they have better sharpness than a camera with a color buyer sensor and a similar pixel count. And the high ISO performance is way better than a color buyer sensor camera. But then again, the black and white conversion from a color picture works really well, and I think for the most of us it's good enough because the difference in tonality is not that big after all compared to a dedicated monochrome camera. And most of us are not willing to sacrifice color for occasional black and white, because I think most of us still want to shoot mostly in color. However, if you are a hardcore dedicated black and white shooter and you're willing to shoot black and white for the rest of your life or till the end, then something like the M10 Monochrome is probably an excellent camera for you. But as always, I'd like to hear your opinion too. Please let me know in the comments down below how you feel about a dedicated monochrome camera, not just the M10 monochrome, but a monochrome camera in general. Would you buy a dedicated monochrome camera if there was one available for a little bit more reasonable price than the Leica M10 Monochrome? Or would you be happy just converting your color pictures to black and white whenever you need black and white? Let me know in the comments down below. And also remember that you can download these sample photos if you have my channel membership or my Buy Me Coffee membership, links down below. And here's my previous Leica M10 Monochrome video. Please take a look if you haven't done that already. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.